So, hi everyone. Let's just wait for one more 2 minutes and then we will start. In the meantime, do you have any question from the previous lecture? No question? Okay. Okay, so today I'm going to start with attendance. Just want to see your names and faces. So let's start. Fatime? No. Abdul Qadir? Bohong? Uh, Aaron? Sorry if I don't pronunciate your name in the right manner. Nasir? Okay. Isha? Paul? Bunny? Bunny? Sunny? Luis? Wasif? Uh, Ab, Ab, Abby Hirman? Okay, so um, Ryan? Owen? Uh, um, Uma Shankar? Laiba Khan? Regal? Surjit? Thin Lang? Seher? Ryan Lee? Again Ryan. Okay, the second Ryan Lee. Oh, no, you're the second one. Okay. Ali Reza? Muhammad? Okay. Mehdi? Sib Naqvi? S- S- Syed Naqvi? Deep Patel? Yashvi Patel? Christian? Ali? Muhammad Raja? Samuel? Zain? Bochan? Number 9? Okay, sure. Your name? No, the last guy. Your name? Your name? Zain? Can you? Okay, so it's here. Sure. So, attendance is not mandatory. I'm just taking it for my own reference. Okay. Let me just confirm it if it's being recorded. Yeah, so I think recording is in progress. And okay, so let's just hide it. Okay, so do you have any question from the previous lecture? No? Perfect. So today we are going to talk about classes and unit testing, and we will talk about inheritance, which is one of the most important topic in object-oriented programming. So let's recap a little. In the previous class, we talked about classes. So what classes are? It is a way to organize your code, and there are 5 main things uh, that are important in classes. So the first is instance variables. So all these variables you define at the top, they are instance variables. So whenever you create an object, the instances of these variables are created, and these instances are unique to those objects. So if you create a new my car, which is named Toyota Camry 2002, now all these variables like make, model, and year, they are unique for this my car. And if you create another car, new car is equals to new car, anything like Honda Civic, and let's say it's 2020. Okay. So now this new instance, this new object has these totally new instance variables. Okay. And another thing that is really important is the constructor. So whenever you create a new object, the first thing that is run is constructor. Okay. So here we have this constructor. Let's see here. Um, we can have multiple constructors. We can do something like this: public car without any argument. Let's print something like anything, print ln. We can have multiple constructors. And when you create an object, the object first sees, okay, how many arguments are we passing in this function? Okay. If there are 3, then it is going to run this function. If there is no argument like this, it is going to run this function. Okay, let's run it. Okay, so you see, first when we created this object Toyota, it created a new object with 0 parameters. So first thing it does is it goes to the constructor, it prints hi, and finally it calls this function. Because we did not give any make, model, or year, the value is null here. Okay, so the string is null and integer is 0. So that's what we read. And then we have class variables that are unique to the classes. And we just create one instance of that using static. Maybe in today's lab, you are going to see that. Um, by the way, there is a lab today. So all of you got my announcement through e-class? Okay, perfect. So maybe around 1:30, we will go to the DB building for the lab. And finally, we have, okay, so we can create as many objects as we want. Okay, so that's all about classes. That's all about what we learned in the previous lecture. So let's see what we are going to learn today. So this commenting the code is a very basic thing. I just want to tell you there is nothing technical here. The whole idea is whenever you write a code, you need to comment it. You need to write its functionality. If you define, let's say you are creating a calculator and you are defining the variable name as horse. Now, if someone is seeing your code, he doesn't know like what you are doing, okay, or what this function is doing. So the whole idea is you start the comment with this, okay, and you end the comment with this. For each parameter, for each argument of a function, you define what is that argument. For each return statement, you define what the function is returning. And for each function, you write what the function is doing. Okay. So example here is this. You can see that, right? So we have this function which relates to the bank account. So the idea here is there is a function withdraw. Okay. It's public void withdraw double amount. So what is the argument here? Amount. Okay. So we write at param, which is a parameter, amount, the amount to withdraw. So what you are passing in the function, you need to define it. Okay. If you are passing a penalty, then you need to write here the penalty amount. Okay. And what is the function of this function? So what does this function do? So it withdraws money from the bank account. So you write it at the top and then you define the parameters, okay? And we are not defining any return statement because the function is not returning anything. Again, go back to the basic programming. When you write void here, the function does not return anything, okay? And then in this example, you see, we have a function public double get balance, okay? So, so what this function is doing is, it is doing two things. So it is returning the balance of the bank account as well as, sorry. So it's doing one thing, it's returning the balance of the bank account, but it is not taking any argument or any parameter, okay? So what you do here is you don't, here's the cursor. Okay, here's the cursor. So here we have return here. It returns the current balance. And what is the function of this function? Gets the current balance of the bank account. So the whole idea here is it's nothing technical. Whenever you write your assignment, whenever you write your code, or maybe in the exam, that's okay. But whenever you write your code in the assignment, please make sure you properly comment the code. If you don't comment the code, I will not understand, or the TA will not understand, and maybe he might deduct your marks. Okay. I will mention that in the assignment PDF. And also just define what is the purpose of the class. So if we are defining a class with a random A, B, C, D, E, F, okay, but we don't know what the class is doing. So you need to define why we are writing this class. If we are writing a car class, mention that this class defines the car. Okay, it defines the make, model, year of the car. If you are creating a class of bank account, define it at the top. So you always define a class like public class bank account, and you write the functionality of the class at the top. Okay, and you provide documentation comments for every class, every function, every method, every parameter, and every return value. Just to remind you again, whenever I say attributes, it means variables. Whenever I say methods, it means the functions. Okay. So any question till here? No? Okay, perfect. So now we are going to read a little bit about unit testing. So when you write your class, how do you know that you have written the right code? How do you know that you have written the right logic? If I ask you to implement a complex mathematical formula, you write the code and you give it to me, but how do you know that it works fine? So that's where you do testing. How many of how many of you have heard this word software testing? Okay. So anyone can explain what is software testing? Anyone? Yeah. Exactly. So writing a simple calculator, 1 + 1 is equals to 2, that is totally fine. But imagine you are managing the bank account of million of users. Anything can goes wrong, okay? Anything can go wrong. And or if you are managing the social media account of people, things can go wrong. So the whole idea is whenever you write your code, you always test it. Okay. And we have multiple ways to test the code. That is a very simple, naive way, uh, where we just, I will just do it right now. Okay. So very naive way is you call every function you write with different parameters and you check if you are getting the right output. If you are writing a function a plus b, sorry, which calculates a sum a plus b, then you check, okay, you pass 1 and 1. So the sum should return 2. It's 2 and 2, the sum should return 4. So 2 plus 2 is 4. So in your assignment, whenever you do anything, I will ask you to create the test case scenarios. Okay. So let's say I ask you to write a class about gym membership. I will also mention that in the main function, you test all the functions. If I ask you to create 10 functions inside a class, you should test all the 10 functions in the main function. Okay. So you should call every function so that I can check if you have written it in a right manner. Okay. Uh, So to test a class, we can use environment for interactive testing, or we can write a tester class to execute the test instructions. Forget everything. We will just go through JUnit and very basic testing. So it's like this. So let's say we have this. So let's say we have created this arithmetic class. So first of all, at the top, I said it's an arithmetic class and it defines two functions. The first function is public int add. It simply returns the sum. And then we have another function, which is subtract. So we just return subtract. Okay. At this point, do you have any confusion? What is this? That is a very simple class with two functions. Okay. One is sum and another is return. Okay. Any question here? Okay, perfect. So Now I'm imagining that you know what classes are, okay? So if you don't have any question, then it means that you know everything. Um, okay. So now we have this class. Okay. So we will also read about packages. So now I have put this class here, and all these files can access this arithmetic class. We can write classes in their own Java files, and all other files can access it. So in car, I can access arithmetic. In testing, I can access arithmetic. I think you know this thing because you have used Java, right? So you know this basic thing. Here in the testing class, what I'm doing here is, in order to use a class, you always need to create an object. Once you have written the class, how are you going to use it? By creating an object. So the first thing, always remember, whenever you write a class, to use the class, you always need to create this new object. This object allows you to access the functions in that class that are public functions. We are going to see public and private today. So when we have created this AR, which is arithmetic class object, like here. So now this AR can access this public function and AR can access this public function. Okay. So let's go in the testing. Now we are saying that we are defining an integer sum and we are calling a function ar.add 1 and 2. So when we run this command, what happens is, first of all, it sees what is the type of this AR. The type of this AR is arithmetic, right? So where is arithmetic? Arithmetic is here. So you go and see, okay, this arithmetic, does it have this add function? Okay, it has the add function. So we call this add function, okay? And now this is a very naive way. Okay, so I know sum of 1 plus 2 is 3. So what I can do is I can print expected and I just put 3 and then, sorry, so instead of this expected, it's a mistake. We can say it's actual run. And we just see what is the value of sum. And let's just, so let's run this. So this is expected and this is actual run. So now this is very basic testing, very naive testing. You don't have to do it in the real software scenarios, but just maybe for the assignments. Let's say if I ask you, there is a function, you need to modify it. And let's say every time you call the function, there is an increment of 1. So now you do something like this. You call the function and you see if the function is actually incrementing certain variable, okay? Or anything. So that is very basic testing. Anyone has any question in this? Okay. And then we have JUnit. So how many of you know about JUnit? Okay, you know JUnit. Anyone? Have you read about it? Okay. So this JUnit is a testing framework. So it allows you to test Java programs, and it is actually made just for testing. Okay. So this is a framework. So it works like this. We will see here and then we will run the code. So first of all, you define private arithmetic. So arithmetic, it means that this arithmetic is an object, this blue one, and this object is of type arithmetic. So this blue one, we can say AR, we can say ARI, we can name anything. But this arithmetic here on the left, this is the name of the class. And this before each. So whenever you define a setup function, it means that whenever we run all these functions, the first thing that is going to run is this function. So let's say in a class, there are 100 functions, okay? There are 100 functions. Are you going to create a new object for each and every function? No. So what we do is we define this function once and use it for all these functions. So in JUnit, these functions, they run separately. It's not like they are going to run at the same time. So this function is run separately. This test function, this test add, and this bad test add runs separately. To run them, we need an object. So let's say we start from here, okay? Testing test. So first we define, okay, there is an arithmetic object of type arithmetic, and we have defined this function. So we have not run it yet. Okay. So we come to this test. So this test will run. So before running this function will run. Okay. This setup function. So we will create a new arithmetic object. And then on this object, we will call the function dot add 53. And then this assert equal is a function, which is a built-in function that checks if this value is equals to this value. So instead of doing expected actual in a manual manner, we just put the values here and this JUnit takes care of everything. Similarly for this function, so now either this function will pass or fail. And then for this function, again, it will go back to setup because it's before each. Before each means that before each function testing, create this object. So we create arithmetic object again, and then we again run the add function, and then we again assert equal 10 and bad result. So for this function should be passed because 5 plus 3 is 8, and this function should fail. 10 plus 3 should be 13, not 10. So let's do this. So I have created this. So the whole idea here is, let's first run it and see what happens. Okay, so you can see here, I'm not sure how to increase its, like how to zoom in, but can you see like 2 by 2 failure 1, and there is a green sign here on the left side of test add, and there is a cross sign here on the left side of bad test add. So what's happening here is we have created two test cases, and this is a separate case. This is a separate case. So this is first, this is second. So if you see 5 plus 3 actually equals 8. Okay. So this 8 and 8, when they are compared using the assert equal function, the test is passed. But when they compare 13 with 10, the test is failed. Okay. So that's how JUnit works. You can, so when I give you the assignment, you can do this, but the assignments will not be really difficult. So it's better not to do this, but you should know about this. Yeah. Yeah, it's a predefined function, and we are actually importing it from here. So there is already Java has already written these function in these APIs in the assertions. So this is not the only function. There are many other functions. And also then we have this before each, which is already defined before, okay, in Java. And then we have this API test. So everything is there. You just need to call your functions, okay? So imagine you write a very complex, you are solving a really complex NASA problem. That's a mathematics problem. You cannot test it using this. You cannot do this, okay? So the whole idea here is, if you know about the solution to your mathematical problem, you just write it here and let the function do all the computation, and you get the result in this. So let's change it. Let's try doing it as 13. So this test should pass. Okay. So when we run this, when all the tests pass, so we have this 2 by 2, there is no failure. And if you just um, see this, the test add is passed and bad test add is passed. You can put as many functions as you want, because in the real world, you are not just defining two functions. There will be a lot of functions in a class. So that's how you test it. So that's how you perform JUnit testing. In JavaScript, there are different testing frameworks. There are different testing frameworks for web development. There are different testing frameworks for Android development. But in Java, JUnit is quite famous for testing your class. So why we are doing this? The whole idea, let's go back. You have written a class, but do you know it works fine or not, right? So we use this JUnit test framework to check if our class is working in a right manner as it is supposed to work or not. Okay. So any question from here? No question? Perfect. Okay. Let me just open this poll. Can you just scan this and tell me what is the output of this code? I'm gonna increase this width so you can see the code. It's a very simple code. We have a name, an instance variable, okay, and we have a constructor. There is a setter function which set the name, and there is a getter function which gets the name. You need to explain the output, not explain. You just need to check the right answer. Person dot display info. So when you run this command, what do you think is going to print? Just try. Even if you that's anonymous, I don't know who is answering what. Okay, so that's okay. Okay, I won't deduct the marks. And just for your information, these are the type of questions you are going to get in your exam. Maybe I will give you the whole code and you need to just uh, compile it in your mind and explain the output. Maybe we will wait for just few more seconds and then I will explain what's the answer. Can I share the answer or do you need more time? Okay, sure. So everybody answered Jane. Okay. So let's see what's the answer. Yeah, okay. It's Jane, right? So the whole idea here is when you create a new object person, what is the first thing that is going to happen? It goes to the constructor. And how many arguments we are passing here? We are passing one argument. So the constructor for one argument is this one. So it sets the name variable to John. Okay. But then you call another function which is set name. So it updates the value of name as Jane. And finally, when you call display info, the name should be presented as Jane. Anyone has any question about it? So is it clear? That's the end of classes. Now we are moving to inheritance, and that's an advanced topic. And if you know inheritance, then you will be able to actually understand interface, polymorphism, and all other concepts. So if you have no confusion about classes, we can move towards inheritance. So have you studied inheritance before? No? Oh, how many of you knows inheritance? Can you raise hand? Okay, perfect. We will see what's inheritance today. So when we hear the word inheritance, what's the first thing that comes to our mind? The inheritance is, let's take a very simple example we see in our families. So when we talk about inheritance, it's the property that is going from parents to children, right? That's inheritance. So it's the same thing here in object-oriented programming. So whenever we inherit something, either it's genes, either it's property, either it's money, anything, we are inheriting it from someone else. So the whole idea here is you create another class that inherits some characters from the previous class or from the parent of that class. So let's take an example of vehicle. So we see that all the vehicles can be driven on the road, right? They have tires, they have seats, they have doors, but motorcycle is an example of vehicle which is different from other vehicles. Okay, but what is common between a normal vehicle and motorcycle, you can drive it. Okay. It takes you from one point to another point. Similarly, car, which is again under the vehicle category, which allows you to move from one point to another point. And then we have a truck, which actually allows you to move from one point to another point, but they are different. Okay, so the whole idea of inheritance is the child classes, they are different, but at the same time, they are similar to their parent classes. So they get something from the parent class. Um, we will come back to this text later. So that's how you represent inheritance. So the whole idea of inheritance is, I have taken this image from the book, if you have read that. So the whole idea here is, let's take an example of car class. Okay. So once you have written a class and you want to use inheritance, you can use the word extends. So when you write a new class, let's say Toyota class, the Toyota, it extends car class. And what happens after that? That's the main thing. We will see. So whenever a child class inherits a parent class, I will explain in text and then we will see in the example. Let's say there is a child class that inherits from the parent class. It is going to inherit all the instance variables. It is going to inherit all the functions, and it is going to inherit all the class variables and functions. Okay. So, but the main idea is, why do you need inheritance? Okay. So let's answer this and then we will come back to these examples. So let's take an example of this line class. Line has a name, line has an age. Okay. There is a function, line eats, line sleeps, line makes sound. Um, line roars, and line hunts. So I have defined the behavior of a line in this class. Okay. When you see this class, is there anything that is confusing you? Okay, no problem. And then we have a dog class. You see, so dog has a name and age. And dog can eat, dog can sleep, dog can make sound, dog. Okay. So the first three things you see, dog is doing the similar things the line is doing. Okay. So if you see, line is also eating, line also sleeps, line also makes sound. Dog is also eats, dog also sleeps, and dog also makes sound. But where is the difference? The difference is here. Dog cannot roar, dog barks. Okay. And dog cannot hunt. Okay. In certain conditions, yeah, it can hunt, but normally dog, let's imagine dog is fetching the ball. And then they take another example of cat class. So the first three functions, they are very similar to line and dog. But if you see the last three functions, okay, so this hunt is similar to line. Cat can mew and cat can play. So the whole idea here is, what is the problem here? So when you see these three classes, what is the problem here? So if I ask you to define classes that define animals. So the problem here is, you are repeating the code, right? So if you see, you have written a function eat, sleep, and make sound. And then you have written this function eat, sleep, and make sound. And then you have written this function eat, sleep, and make sound. So the whole idea here is, you are repeating the code, which can be reused in an efficient manner. So that's what inheritance does. Okay. So the whole idea of inheritance is, instead of defining these functions again and again, you create a class with these single functions and then extend the next classes. So the next class is going to inherit all the functions. So let's take an example. Maybe it's too complicated right now. So before that, I will explain packages. Sorry, yeah. Exactly. So this is just a way to organize your code to reuse the functions without writing them multiple times. Okay. Yeah. So that's what inheritance does. So packages in Java. So that's very, again, so the whole idea here is, you go here And in the source, you go and you simply create a new package. So it's like this, com.itech dot anything. Okay, you can name your package anything. And once you create your package, you can define as many classes as you can. So let's take this as hi, and let's take this class as hello. So you define a package. In those package, you can define multiple classes, okay? And for each class that belongs to a specific package, you need to put the name at the top. So if you remember, I just created a package com.itech.anything. So now this hello class belongs to this package. Similarly, this hi class belongs to this package. Um, so the whole idea of packages here is, so when the classes are related, you put those classes in the same package. So let's talk about the math class. So Java has implemented a math class, a math package. So in the math package, it has arithmetic, simple subtract, addition, it has geometry, it has algebra, it has like complex mathematical functions, and all they are all together, they're all bundled in a package. Okay. um, Example of packages like this. So when you go to a grocery store, they don't just put your food in the um, like in the cleaning items. Okay, so everything is together. So if you want to go to the cleaning section, you will find all the product of cleaning. And if you want to go to some food section, everything is food there, the sweets and salt and everything. So it's the same with Java. So Java has put all those. So, okay, so we have this simple, let's say, class, random class, which allows you to define random variables, okay? Or let's say a random number. Let's say there is a dice and you want to generate a random number from 1 to 6. This random class is going to allow you to do that. And then we have this print class. So the package name of this print class is java.io. And if you talk about JUnit, this is the name of the package of JUnit. So the whole idea of packages is you combine the classes that are similar. It's not that difficult. Do you have any confusion in understanding packages, what packages are? Yeah. Yeah, okay. So this static keyword, basically this allows you to test the okay, so we had this question in the previous class too. So this static, okay, so let's I will give you an example. So this static allows you like this. So let's do this. So in order to use a static variable, you don't have to create an instance of the class. So what is the name of this class? Car. So maybe in this, you can do something like this. Okay, let's print it. Okay, so when we are going to run this function, we are going to print 1. So the whole idea here is when you put the word static, you don't have to create an object. Okay, so when you so this static means that you can use this class or you can use the variable without creating any instance. I'm not saying Toyota dot A. It's not Toyota dot A. It's the name of the class dot A. So the whole idea here is you can use the class, you can use the static, anything static in the main function without creating any object. So that's the difference between static and non. Okay. I hope it answers. Okay, so let's take an example of this package. So let's go back to testing here. Let's import something. Import java.util. So we have this util, and you see in the util, they have different packages, concurrent, function, jar, logging, random. So we are interested in this random. So we are going to call this random function. And when we put star, it means that import all the functions or all the classes associated with random. So the next thing you need to do is you need to create a random object. Let's say it's R is equals to new random. Again, go back to this idea. Um, okay, so what's the problem here? Okay, so sorry, it's random. Okay, so we are importing the random class. So the idea here is whenever you import some class or whenever you try to use some class, the first thing you need to do is to create an object. So we have created this R object. Now in this class, there are multiple functions. So if you put R dot, so you see there is a bundle of functions that is implemented inside a class. But I'm interested in this next int. So if you see this function actually generates an integer, a random integer. So I am interested in this function. You can use all the other functions, but let's just print it quickly. So we have generated a random number and it is changing again and again and again. So that's the whole idea of packages. You package the classes, the similar classes, sorry, you package the similar classes inside a single package, you name it, and then you make it available. Maybe you can find different packages online. Um, People have created and you can use them by simply importing them. That's how you import it, okay? And we have multiple. So that's how you import. If you want to use array list, so basically we are going to read maybe after second midterm or sorry, first midterm. So this is data structure. So we are going to read that. Um, and you can organize everything inside package. So do you have any confusion about packages? Okay, that was very simple. So let's come back to inheritance. So I told you what's the problem here. You are repeating P functions again and again and again. You created a line class, you created a dog class, you created a cat class, and you are repeating these functions. So why not I create a simple animal class and put all these functions in that class and all the other class, they just inherit it. So how do they inherit it? So let's see this code first. I have created, let's say this is the name of the package animal.itech, it can be anything, okay? We create an animal class with name and age. And then we have this constructor which allows us to assign the name and age. Then we have these three functions, eat, sleep, and make sound. So that's inheritance. We just define these functions once and let's see how we can use them. So let's create a specialized dog class. Okay. So let's do this. So whenever you want to create a class inside a package, you go to new, you go to class. Okay. And let's call it a dog class. So what I'm going to do here is to use this animal class inside this dog class without defining these functions. I just need to use this word dog extends animal. Okay, that's inheritance. And let's say I define this function and I'm going to explain what is super. Super is just a way to call the constructor of the parent class. And so whenever you define a class or whenever you inherit a class, these public variables, not public, these variables, let's say these private string name and age. So all those classes that inherit the animal class, they will also inherit these name and age. So we need a way to actually define these names. So in the dog class, what we can do is we can pass the name and age. So what we can do is we can pass the name and age. I will explain everything. Just I'm writing this code so you know what's happening. So we have two functions, bark and fetch. So it's a very simple function, public void bark. Okay. It's just gonna print something. Uh, Dog is barking. Okay. And let's copy and paste this function again. and dog fetch. Dog is fetching the ball. Okay. So we have these two functions here. Um, so now what is happening here is we have this dog class, which is extending animal class. So extending means that the dog is inheriting all the methods and variables of animal class, which are name and age. This eat, sleep, and make sound. And dog is also defining two unique functions that are unique to dog, like bark and fetch. Again, in the package, we can create a simple main class to test our functionality. So we create a main class and we define public static void main string args. Okay, the first step to use a class is to define an object. So dog is equals to new dog, and we need to pass the name. Let's say the name is Bud and age of dog is 1. Okay, and dog has two functions, bark, and dog has another function, fetch. Let's forget about animal class. Okay, so we have this dog class and let's run this. So what is happening here is when you created this object dog, what is the type of this object? The class dog, right? So where is the class dog? The class dog is here. So you go here. So let's forget about this super first. Okay, let's go to main. So we are calling this function dog dot bark. So it's going to dog and it is going to see, okay, is there a bark function? Yes. Is there a fetch function? Yes. So when we run this function, we are seeing dog is barking and dog is fetching the ball. At this point, we just called two functions of dog. But the inheritance allows dog to call these functions too. Okay, dog, we can call these functions. So that's inheritance. So the whole idea here is you have a dog class that is extending animal class. It means that now dog class has access to all the instance variables and the functions of animal class. That is inheritance. Any confusion here? Okay, I'm gonna explain again. So now let's, okay, so instead of explaining, let's create another class. Let's create a line class. Okay. Again, for the line, I'm gonna define public line string name int age super name age, and then I define two more functions. Um, what's the problem here? The constructor string int. Oh, okay, okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I did not extend it. Animal. So, okay. So here's the thing. If you don't extend, you cannot use super because your class is actually the parent and it has no children. So this is the main class. So in order to use this super or to inherit some characters, you need to do this extends animal. Okay. And then we have again public void. What does line? Okay. Line hunts. Line is hunting. And let's copy paste this function. And what does line do? Line roars. Okay. Line does a lot of things, but let's call it roar. Line is roaring. Okay. Again, you run it. Okay. I think. Okay, so what is happening here? The thing is, because I did not create the in the line object in the main function, that's why it is calling this. So instead of dog, what I can do here is I can copy the same thing. I'm just gonna, and I'm gonna do line is equals to new line. So the first function is line dot roar, line can roar, and the next function is line dot, what does the hunt. So what do you think the output is going to be? Okay, so why it's not? Okay, what's the problem here? Roars, hunts. No. Roars, public, void, hunt. Um, okay, oh yeah, yeah. Oh man. So yeah, you're gonna make a lot of mistakes like this, like me too. So so when you run this, what is happening? What is the type of this line? This the type of this line is class line. Okay. So you go here and you see, okay, hunt and roars are available. So you come to the main function and you run these functions. Line is roaring, line is hunting. But line, if you go back to line is extending the animal class. So do you think line can call these functions? Exactly, line can call these functions because line is inheriting the animal class. So that is inheritance. So let's call these functions first, and then I will explain something. Line dot eat, line dot sleep, and line dot make sound. Okay. So when you call these, okay, another mistake I'm doing here is, let's say, um, let's, okay, so the name of this line is bird. So instead of the confusion, I just make it line. Okay. Yeah. So line is inheriting the animal class. So line can call these functions. So now what is the benefit here? So let's see the benefit. So instead of defining these functions again and again and again for lion, dog, cat, or other animals, we are just defining them once. And all the classes, we are just using this extends animal. And now all those classes that are extending the animal class, they can call the functions that belong to animal. Okay. So the whole idea of inheritance is, when you think that you define a function that can be used in multiple classes, um, for example, let's say there is a sum function, and it is going to be used, let's say, in algebra or in geometry. So you define this function sum once, and you, or every time you want to use the sum, either you can import it, or maybe you can extend the class. Okay. Or there is a possibility, um, so you must have used those calculators in your life. There is a simple calculator, and the mobile actually allows you to switch to the complex calculator, right? So we have a simple calculator, we have just some addition, subtraction, and then we have a complex calculator, which allows you to define sine, cos, tan, or like multiple. So the whole idea here is, you define a class simple calculator, and you define the functions add, subtract, and all this. So when you define a class complex calculator, instead of defining addition, subtraction again, you just inherit the class. So now this complex calculator extends simple calculator, and then you can use all the functions. Okay. So do you have any confusion in inheritance? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, okay, I'm coming back to super again. I've not explained it yet, but okay, so I will explain it a bit now, and then we will see in more detail what super is. So the whole idea here is, the whole idea here is, So whenever you define these classes, okay, and whenever you extend something, um, you cannot use these variables directly. Let's make it private. Okay, so you cannot use these variables directly, but they are somewhere there. So here's the thing. Whenever you define this class, you know the constructor is mandatory. Okay, so constructor has a hierarchy. So let's say we have this dog class. You run a constructor here. It is mandatory for you to run the constructor of animal class too. Okay, you cannot just run the constructor. You cannot do something like this. You cannot do. It asks you must explicitly invoke another constructor. So what this error is referring to is, so when you say super name and age, so basically super means that super class or the class that is above. So what is the super class here? Animal. So it goes, so when you call super name and age, it goes back to this super class and sees, okay, where is the constructor with two arguments? So here is this. So actually it's not animal, it's super. Okay. So it assigns name and age. So the whole idea of super in the constructor is to call the constructor of parent or super class. Okay. So we have two names, name terminology. We have parent class and child class, or super class and subclass. Okay. So we will come towards this super again. But do you have any confusion in inheritance? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we did. Uh, we did initiate, you see. So that's a constructor, right? Yeah. Yeah, okay. So we can do something like this. Let's say, what is the unique character of dog? Breed, maybe. So private string breed. No, okay. Private string breed. And we can say this dot breed is equals to, let's say, bulldog. Okay. You can do something like this. And you can do something like this too. Or maybe this dot breed. Let's run it. Okay, so you see, we can print bulldog here. Sorry, it's if it's two down. Yeah, you can see bulldog here. So yeah, we can do this. So actually it was, okay, so where is this now? Where are we? It's gone. Okay, it's come back. So that's how we do it. It's possible. So, your question, so her question is like, can we define instance variables specific to dog class or the inherited or child class? It is possible to do that, and we can treat them separately. Okay. So what's the, okay, so when I have defined this thing here, I want to clarify one more thing here. Um, yeah, so let me open this lecture one. So let's come back to this thing. Okay. And let's come back here in the lecture two. So, so you see, we can define the instance variable specific to inherited class. So, okay, so this breed is specific to dog class. And these name and age, they are specific to animal class. And I told you when you perform inheritance, the dog class takes all the instance variables of animal class. So the whole idea here is, let me put it back here. Let's just delete this. Okay. So I will say it's an animal class. Okay. And animal has to name and age. So these are the instance variables. Okay. But when we have a dog class which has parent animal, the dog is going to have the dog is going to have, let's just forget it. So dog is going to have three variables now. Okay. The name, age, and breed. That's the main point I want to emphasize. Okay. Um, so the animal has two variables, name and age. But when you do something like this, dog extends animal, the dog takes the instance variable of animal, put it in the memory, and it's somewhere there. So now we are defining a third variable, breed. So here is the thing. So any confusion in this? This is very important thing, okay? In the question, obviously the questions will not be simple like dog or animal. In the exam, you will see really complex questions. So the whole idea here is whenever you define a class, whenever you inherit a class, sorry, not define, yeah, after defining, when you inherit a class, you inherit everything from the class. You inherit the private instance variables, you inherit the functions, you inherit the class variables, you inherit everything, yeah? So super class, like the main class is the one that, so like since a lot of the classes can have similar functions, right? So the main class is the one that has the functions that use the other classes, right? Yeah, exactly. So the main class has the main functions that will be reused by the other classes. So other classes simply inherit the main class and it inherits everything. Yeah. Okay. The functions, not the private functions. We will see what is private. Yeah. Yeah, sure. So we have a main class here. Yeah. Is it good? Perfect. Yeah. Mhm. Like for dogs specifically, if you have certain user, can we do that? Yeah, exactly. We can do that, and that's what we are doing. So let's say we have this dog which has name Bud, right? Okay. So what is happening here is, okay. So let's say I yeah, so we are hard coding it. Okay. So let's not hard code it. Let's do something like this. String breed, you pass it in the constructor. Okay. And in the main class, let's pass bulldog. Okay. Let's run it. So dog is barking, dog is fetching, bird is eating, bird is sleeping, and bird is making sound. So what is happening here is, or let's do something like this. Create another dog, dog 2. Let's name it unnamed. Okay. Its age is 2 and its breed is, I don't know. Let's say it's like this. Okay. So dog, so we can do something like this. So let's comment everything out for the line. And let's put something like this here. Dog 2, dog 2, dog 2, dog 2, dog 2. Okay. So let's run it. So Was this your question? We can define multiple names for multiple dogs. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. We are doing it with inheritance. So yeah. Mhm. Yeah, okay. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, so you are saying, can we do this? Instead of calling this constructor, can we do this? This dot name is equals to, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, okay. So this is what we are going to learn. Let's just forget about it. But that's what we are doing. Okay, so I will answer you again. So I was going to answer this. Okay, so in the main class, we defined these things. Okay, so now we have, let's say, this bird, and then we have this unnamed dog. So what is happening here is when you run this, okay, first it goes to the constructor of dog. Okay, so let's go to the dog. Where is the constructor? So when you call this super, so what happens is, I told you when you see this word super, it goes to the constructor of parent class, right? So you go back to animal here. And that's exactly what you are doing inside animal class, because these are private variables and you cannot access them outside the class. Okay? They are somewhere there, but you cannot access them. You cannot do something like this, like we did. You cannot do something like this because they are not visible. You see, animal dot name is not visible. To make them visible, you need to do either protected, let's say, yeah, or there is another way we are going to see later. Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So now you can do that. So we have three visibilities: private, protected, and public. Um, I think I just mentioned it here. Yeah. So you cannot access the any variable, let's say name, inside the inherited class because that's private. So there are two ways. Either you write a getter method, which is public inside the main class, or you use a protected keyword. So we are going to come here, but does it answer your question? Okay. Yeah, no problem. Do okay, so I'm gonna repeat inheritance again. You define one class, and that class contains the functions that you are going to repeat again and again in the new classes. So what you do is you simply inherit the class, and all the instance variables and all the functions, they come in your inherited class. Okay, here the dog is extending animal and line is extending animal. So line and dog can call all the functions of the animal class, and they have access to all the instance variables of the animal class, like I told you here. Okay, where is that? Yeah, here. So in the animal, we have two variables. In dog, we have three. And that is very important. You are going to see question related to this in your exam. And if I say it's coming in the exam, it is coming. Okay. So maybe write it down somewhere. You have to practice this. Um, so any question from inheritance? No question? Okay, perfect. And other examples are student, undergrad, postgrad. So when we have a student, let's say even if even I am a student, let's say I'm doing my research job and let's say I'm considered as a student by my professor. I have a name, I have a, let's say, a student number, I have an email ID, so does you. So you have all these things with you, like your name, student ID, email address. So we are all together in this. But since I did PhD, I have a master's degree, I can explain my research. I have a PhD degree, but you don't have it. So what I'm going to do is, in order to represent myself, I will simply define a student class and I will simply extend it. So I will not define all the functions, my name, age, or anything. I will just use your class, use your information, because I'm sure like all my information matches with you. Like we have email address, we have bank account number, we have name, everything. Okay. Or let's say, let's talk about bank account. So you create a bank account where you have deposit function, withdraw function, then you have a checking account. Maybe there are functions that are related to checking account. Let's say cancel a transaction, or there is a function in saving account where you actually add interest uh, as a cashback. Maybe there is a cashback function in the saving account. I'm not sure where it's that, but it is possible. So the whole idea of inheritance is, instead of writing code again and again, you define a simple class, a very basic class, and you inherit it. Simple. Okay. Can you open again your mobiles and can you scan this? Okay. So now in this question, we have created an animal object of type animal, and you need to see if you call animal dot roar, what is going to happen. Okay. So it's like this. Let me just put it here. So if you call animal dot roar, what is going to be printed? Please everyone do that. It's anonymous question.
Yeah, the question of, are we looking at the code or is it like if that was in the code version?
Yeah, so this is the code. And in the end, I did not write this animal dot roar. So here you created this object animal. I'm not sure if you can see this. So now this object is created. If I call the function animal dot roar, what's the output? Yeah. Few more seconds. Should I stop or you're still answering? Okay, I will just stop. Okay. So you see, here is the mistake. So 50% answered, line is roaring, not roaring, and 50% answered, there is an error. Okay, so error is the right answer. Why? Yeah, because you see, we have this animal class and it has function eat and sleep. So line is extending animal. Animal is not extending line. Animal has no visibility to these functions. Okay. So all those who have chosen this option, line is roaring, that is not a right option, because you need to always look at the type of object you are creating. If this animal is of type line, you can call this function. If animal is of type animal, you go to the animal class. Animal class is extending something? No. Animal is on its own. So do you see a roar function here? No. So you cannot call the roar function. These are the type of questions you are going to get in the exam. Okay. Any question from here? No. Um. Okay. So let's talk about public versus private. We will take a break at around 1:15. and then we will actually go to the lab, okay, with the 15 minutes break. Um, Public versus private. So you cannot call the private methods from main. So now we will talk about what is public and what is private. So the whole idea here is, so you have this animal class and all these functions are public, right? And these functions are visible inside dog class. But what if I just make this eat function private? Now, what is the problem? This private function is not accessible to any other class. So dog cannot call eat, okay? Because eat is not visible to dog. So when you need to focus on this word public or private, okay? So this private function, if you talk about animal class, these private functions can be called inside a class. What does that mean? So we create another public function, eat again, and we do something like this. Calling a private function, and then I call eat. We can do something like this, okay? We can only call private function from inside a class. That is very important again, okay? So when you see a word private, you cannot call it outside the class. Main class is another class. What if I do eat again? Now the error is gone. And if I do eat again, the error is gone. Why? Because you can only call public function. So what I did here, I called a public function in animal, which is eat again. But this eat again is calling a private function. That is legal, totally legal. You can call a private function from inside a class because the private function has the visibility inside a class, okay? So does it make sense? Any confusion? No confusion? Perfect. So that's the whole idea. You cannot call private methods from main or any other class. What you can do is you can create a public method and that public method calls the private method. Okay. And private methods can only be called from inside a class. And then you implement a subclass. For example, let's say you are implementing. So what is subclass? Subclass is inherited class. So dog is a subclass, animal is a parent class, okay? So now let's talk about all these, what I have written here. So I have not gone through these things what I have written here, but these things mean the same, okay? So I just don't want to read the text again, but that's what it is. So when you create a new class based on the simpler existing class, the new class inherits all the properties of the original class, a principle called inheritance. So that's the definition, okay? So that's what we have learned in all this coding. So let's go back here again. Implementing subclasses. The subclass inherits all the public methods from the superclass and the instance variables. Any confusion in this point? So whenever you extend a class or whenever you perform this inheritance thing, all the inherited class gets all the public methods, accessibility, and the instance variables, okay? So the idea is the dog and lion inherits, eat, sleep, and make sound. They can call these functions. And you can declare unique methods in their own respective classes. The dog, lion is implementing roar and hunt. Dog is implementing bark and fetch. You cannot call it from animal class, but you can call them from dog class, okay? That's very important. Also, you can change the implementation of inherited methods if the inherited behavior is not appropriate. So that's something, this is called overriding. So what is overriding? Um, Overriding is, let's say we have a line class and we are not happy with eat method, which is defined in animal. So the animal defines an eat method, name is eating, right? So let's make it public again for our ease, and let's keep it there. So animal has this eat method. Okay. So whenever you go to dog dot eat, when you go to dog dot eat, first it goes to the dog class and it sees, okay, is there any eat method here? Do you see any eat method here? No. Then it sees, okay, is there any class where I'm inheriting something? Yeah, animal is there. Okay. So it goes to animal and it looks for the eat function. So animal has eat function, right? So it calls this name is eating. What is the name? Let's say bird. Bird is eating. Okay. Bird is eating. But there is a possibility we might need to change this function. So it is possible to change any of this function inside this dog or line class, which is inheriting animal class. Okay. So that is overriding. So if you see here, we have a line class, we have a function roar, we have a function hunt. Okay. And we can override the eat method. So let's do this. So I'm gonna go to dog. I will just remove all these unnecessary things here. Uh, so- okay, so I will go to dog and I can say public void eat and I'm gonna copy. Dog is overriding eating method. Okay, let's run this. So what is happening here is everything is similar. So what is happening here is let's start from the main. You define a dog object. Okay. So what is the type of this dog object? It is of type dog, right? So you first, the main thing is you go to the dog class first. You start from always from the type. Okay. So in the dog class, now can you see eat function? So now that's the priority. So if in inheritance, if there is a function already available in the inherited class, you call that. So now you will not go to animal function. You will not go to animal and you will not run the eat function inside animal class. Okay. So that's the thing here. That is overriding. So you are overriding the methods. And the how to say that? The best practice is you always write override. Okay. So with big O. So this override actually, so whenever I read your code, if you are giving me some code and I'm reading that, I will understand, okay, you are overriding something. So this method exists in the parent class. So this is just a keyword to actually tell people that you are overriding this method. Okay, if you don't write it, it's going to run fine, but that's a way to do that. So any question in overriding? Always the function that is overridden, it has the priority. Okay. So you always start from the dog class because you are defining dog here. But if I'm doing something like this, animal dog is equals to, okay, don't change it. Let's say animal dog 1 is equals to new animal bird and 3. Okay. So the first thing you are going to see is the type of this object. If it's of type animal, you don't go to dog. Okay, that's a very important thing. Students make a lot of mistakes. So you go to animal and you look for eat or you look for all the functions. And again, if it's of type animal, you cannot call the functions of dog or line because animal is a separate class and animal is not extending anything. So focus on that. Yeah. Sorry, I did not understand. Yeah. No, okay. So yeah. So that's what I'm telling you. If you are writing animal, don't be confused with this dog one. Okay. So if you are writing animal, it means that it has no connection with dog. Animal is a separate class. Consider it like a car. Car dog is equals to new dog car. Okay. So overriding is a concept when you are inheriting something. In animal, you are not inheriting something. So that is a very simple basic class. Yeah.
So suppose like you put an override statement, right?
Mhm.
So when you sit in the main class, it's only gonna suppose we call it for the eat function, right?
Mhm.
It's only gonna go to the override and not to the animal class.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
And you always define override function because you need to, because there is a need for that. If there is no need, you just keep it. You just keep the eat of parent class.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So any question from here? Okay, no question. And so we talked about the private and public methods. Okay, we talked about overriding. So now we're going to talk about the private variables. The question she asked before. So what happens if we try to access the variables that are private inside inherited class? So here's the thing. So I explained before, but I will explain again. Let's make it private again. Let's make it private again, private int age, private int name. And let's not change it here. Okay. Um, and let's forget it, remove it. Let's run this. And I'm just gonna remove this bulldog from here. Okay. So the whole idea here is the name and age, they are private. Okay. You cannot directly access them here. You cannot do something like this. Dog dot fetch name plus is fetching the ball. We cannot access name inside the inherited class if the type, or sorry, if the visibility of that variable is private. So in animal, you can see the variables are private. You cannot access them directly inside dog class. There are two ways for that. Either you make them protected or public. But that is like you don't make your instance variables public always. Okay, you can do that, but you should not do that. Okay, you can steal, but you should not steal. Okay, there are things you can do, but you should not do. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. So protected is just a visibility parameter for instance variables. So when you say private, you cannot access it from outside the class. But when you say protected, like super, yeah, it can be accessed by super class, it can be accessed by the classes that inherit that class, or maybe some methods in the same package. So it's like this. Let's say you have a secret. Okay, now it's private to you, but you change the visibility of the secret and you make it protected. So now your friends can access your secret. Okay, you can tell it to your friends, but are you going to tell your secret to your public, like to me? No, I'm a public, right? So that's the visibility. So in class, when it's private, when a variable is private, it's only seen to that class. When you make it protected, you increase the visibility a little. So now it can be seen by the classes that inherit the main class, or maybe the classes in the same package. Okay. And the public, anybody can use it. Maybe, anybody can use it. So do you like understand this idea?
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Only the inherit class. So let's say you make another class that's not inherited, you can't use it for the other one.
Yeah, it depends. If it's in the same package, you can use it. So here's this thing. So this is the same package, right? This arithmetic. So arithmetic, car, testing, and so let's make it, so let's make it protected. Okay? Protected string make. So now I think you can use it somewhere here. Let's try doing it if I'm not wrong. make cannot be resolved to a variable. Let me see if how can I access it. Um, maybe I have to create. Okay, car is equals to new car. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So here's the thing. Whenever you want to use a variable, you need to create an object first, okay? So now I can access this make here, okay? I have no error here, right? But if I make this make private, now I get an error. I cannot access it in this class. These classes, this arithmetic, car, testing, and testing test.java, they are in the same package. So the visibility of protected is if it's in the animal class, let's say the name and age, animal can access it. If animal is being inherited by some class, let's say dog or lion, dog and lion can access it. And all the other classes, let's say I create another class, um, human, okay? Human can also access it. So that's the visibility of protected. Did you, now you understood the point? What's the confusion?
Let's say human does not inherit.
Yeah, human does not inherit anything. Yeah, yeah, that's what we see here. You let's see, it's protected car, okay? And now this testing, it's not inheriting from the car, but we can still access it because they are in the same package. Got my point? Like, does it make sense now? Any confusion? Okay. So, any more question? Okay. So where were we? Yeah. So we can use protected. That's one method, or we can create a function that returns the private value. Okay. So we can do something like this. So we go to the animal class. Let's say it's private, and we create a function public string get name, and it returns the name. So now instead of name, what you can do is you can call the function directly. And now you can access the name again. Any question from here? So the whole idea here is you cannot access the private variable, but you can create a public function that can access that private variable and that can return that private variable. Or you use protected. If you don't like this getter setter methods, just use protected, okay? You are going to use that a lot in the future if you work with Java, but that's what protected is. So any question? Perfect. So then we have this concept of hiding and shadowing. Again, you can do that, but never do that. So the whole idea of this hiding and shadowing is, let's say you define a variable x is equals to 10, right? And you define the same name of the variable x is equals to 20 here. You can do that. Now these two variables are different. Like you cannot, don't confuse them. They are different. But if someone is reading your code, he might be confused. Okay. If it's like 1,000 lines of code, these variables can confuse the person who is reading your code. So this is the idea of hiding and shadowing. So the whole idea here is let's just increase its size and I will explain. Yeah. So let's say this is the parent class and you are defining x is equals to 10. So here we have x is equals to 10 and this x is the instance variable of parent class. And then we create a child class which is x is equals to 20. So now this x belongs to the child class which is 20. Okay. And then we have print x, we are printing x, and then we are doing print super dot x. Okay, so I didn't explain super. So whenever you do super dot something, it calls um, the function and variable of super class. Okay, it's just like the constructor. So let's go here. Let's directly go to super keyword, then we will come back to hiding and shadowing. So this super, actually it calls the constructor of the super class, and it is mandatory to call super in the subclass constructor. Okay. And another thing is super dot method. If you want to access a method again in your class, you can access it as many times using super dot method. So let's do this. So let's say we are in this dog class and we want to access, let's say, eat. So super dot eat. Okay. And we can call it multiple times. Super dot eat, super dot eat. So I think it was your question, or maybe not a question, but an insight. When you override this function, this eat will be prioritized. But in case if you want to call this eat function inside a parent class, you can do that. Super dot eat. So let's run this. Yeah. So when you do super dot eat, it means that first of all, it is going to see, okay, is it extending some class? Perfect. Animal. Yeah. Now when you call super dot eat, basically it's like this. It's animal dot eat. So you go to animal class. Okay. You go to animal class and you see if there is an eat function here. Yes, there is an eat function here, and you print it 3 times. Any confusion in that? Yeah. Oh, no. So the priority comes when you run the main function. Okay. So let's say you create an instance here. Like dog is equals to new dog. So when you call dog.eat, it goes to the dog class first and see if there's an eat method here. So here's the priority. It calls the eat method. But if you look at super.eat, we are using it in the dog class, not in the main class. Yeah. Do you think we can do super.eat? Do you think we can do? Because main is not extending any class. Yeah. So there is no super, right? Everybody understood this thing? This thing, since main class is not extending anything, you cannot use super. Okay. Okay. So where were we? So any question from super dot method? If you want to call the method of super class inside a child class or subclass, you can use super dot method. Okay. Well, it's the same. Let's talk about constructors. Okay. So the whole idea of constructors here is, let's say you have a bank account, public class bank account. You have a variable balance, and you have a constructor balance is equals to 0, and you have a function bank account which is again a constructor with 1 parameter. So we have two constructors with 0 parameters, 0 parameter with 1 parameter. Okay. So let's say there is a saving account class. I'm not sure if you can see that, but let's try seeing it here. It extends the bank account. It means that it is getting all the information from this class, and you define a new variable interest rate, and you have saving accounts. So, okay, so this saving account and saving account. So this is a constructor. Okay. So now the thing is, you have not defined super here. And my question is this implementation correct? I have explained it before. Is it okay to define balance here? You cannot define balance here because balance is private. You cannot define balance here. And you need to write super. You need to write super in the constructor. It is mandatory. I explained before, it is mandatory. If you don't write super, the constructor with 0 arguments will run. Okay. So let's go to the dog class. Okay. And don't write anything here. Don't write anything here. So what's the error? It's saying must explicitly invoke constructor. Okay. Because we are not invoking constructor, and we have not defined a constructor with no argument. So let's say I do something like this, public animal with zero argument, and let's try printing something. I will just copy it from here. Constructor with zero argument. Okay. So what I'm telling you here is, if you don't write anything, if you don't write anything here in the constructor, it is going to call this super. If if I don't mention it in the exam, if I don't mention anything, you should know that super will be called. And you are going to get this question in exam, okay? So if I'm using inheritance, and in the constructor, if I don't write anything, just imagine there is a super here, which will be called. So let's try. You see? So we created a dog object. The first thing it does is it come back to the constructor. In the constructor, in the constructor, do you see super here? No, there is no super, right? But it goes to the animal class. It goes to the constructor with zero argument, and it runs that constructor. And that's why you are seeing constructor with zero argument. That is very important. If you don't, and I will not tell you in the exam that there is a super here. Whenever you are inheriting a class, there is always a super in the constructor. Either it's written or it's not written. If I do something like this, then it is going to see, okay, any constructor here with two arguments? Yes, and it is going to call that constructor. But if I don't write anything here, let's just remove it. It is going to call super in the animal class, but with zero argument. That's the whole point. Okay. Always remember this. You are going to get this question in exam. That's for sure. Okay. Um, so any question from here? This how super is used in the constructor and how super is used to call the method of the parent class. And I will just explain like final methods and classes. So if you write final to any method, it cannot be overridden. Okay. Let's say we have this animal class, and I write public final. Can I write final here? Yeah, public final void. Oh, not here. Public final void eat. Okay. If I write final here, now it's immutable. Okay. So if you go back to the dog class, now it is giving you error that cannot override the final method, because now I have written final. So maybe you can see that in your exam, I write something before the function, let's say final, and I try to override it. And then I give you like a really big code, but the code cannot run because of this mistake. And maybe I will ask for the output, and you just need to maybe just write error. I will understand you understood this thing. Okay. So focus on these things. Um, we will do that in the later class. I just want to like get this question. So can you just scan again, and I just want to see if you understood it. So you need to see what is going to be printed at number 27. So yeah, you can see that, right? This is hiding and shadowing. Before explaining, I just want you to actually answer it. So this is just a parent class which has a variable at a double t attribute. And we have in the test one class that extends parent, and again it has a double t attribute, which is an instance variable. So this is hiding or shadowing, where we have two variables from two different class with the same name. And I want you to see what is going to be printed, like which attribute is going to be considered. You need more time, or I can just explain the answer. Okay, so I will just stop. Okay, so somebody answered. I'm sorry if I just stopped it. But okay, so 4, 3, or 6. So I think 6 and 4 are the wrong answers. The right answer is 3. Why? So you have this parent class, you have attribute, right? And you have this constructor. And you have these two functions, set attribute and get attribute. And then you have a test1 class, which is inheriting from the parent class. And it is defining the same attribute variable. And then you have a function meth. That's like methodology, not the math. And it's like attribute is equals to 4. And you call this set at attribute function. Okay. So now in the main function, what is the type you are creating? Test1 O. So O has the type test1. Okay. So when O has the type test1, what is the first thing that is going to run? The constructor. Okay. So where is the constructor here? Is there any constructor? No. But I told you, even if there is no constructor, the constructor with 0 argument will be called. So this attribute value will become 6. So now you call o.math. So what is doing is, it is saying a double t is equals to 4. So now this a double t is basically this a double t, because it is the private variable and you cannot access this a double t inside this test1 class. Do you understand why we cannot access this a double t in this class? Because that is private. Okay. So when you call set a double t and 3, it goes to this function and it sets the attributes to 3 from 6. And when you call o.get attribute function, first it sees the type of O. What is the type of O? Test1. You go to the test1 class. Do you see a get at function? No, there is no get at function. So you see, okay, is there any class that is being extended? Yeah, it's a parent class. You go to the parent class. You see, is there any get at function? Yes, it is going to return attribute. But which attribute? The attribute that belongs to parent. And what is the value? The value is 3, which we just set. So that is hiding or shadowing. Like these are private variables. You cannot access this at in this test1. You cannot access this at in parent class. Okay. So that is hiding. So you have to understand, if I am accessing attribute variable or any instance variable, which variable is going to be considered. Okay. So do you understand this? Any question? Okay. So I think we can just stop here. Maybe you can go to the lab. I will come in 10-15 minutes because the video is going to be saved and I have to be here.